in a simulated exam. And I would say where we have a single question with multiple answers, but you're not told whether the 2 are correct, 3 are correct, or 5 are correct. But the most other important aspect would be in terms of how soon do you actually get your results when it comes to a simulated exam, which is instant. And I think that is a very good strength. And the last E is how are we going to evolve? And in the evolution, that's where we need to decide. It has to be disrupted. We are used to things moving slowly, but we say in some point, we have to kill something and move to the next one. So I would say thank you so much as we move towards a green, digitalized economy.
Thank you. You mentioned about the challenges. Kindly, can you expound the challenges that we're facing to implement this greening and digitalization?
Thank you. So I mentioned the 4 E's, that is to empower, to engage, execute, and finally we evolve. So at the engagement point, we have quite some number of challenges. We are intending like the TVET model where we need to engage the lecturers first so that they can come in and help us execute. And in engaging, we mean all the material has to be first of all digitized. After it is digitized, then how can we now be able to now do the execution? So that would form one of the challenges. The second challenge we mentioned, one of our presenters here mentioned, digitalization is not all about having PowerPoint presentation and having the online learning. The second part of digitalization, which is very important, is how we will incorporate the industries into the normal education system. We as Huawei are incorporated now with TVET here in the WorldSkills, and that would also enable our students to also move on. So as we put that ratio between the technical, non-technical, industry standards should also be put in place. And here I really encourage, can we be able to have some certifications that can be able to have equivalences out there in the market? And that would basically be taken care of by TVETs. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, my next question goes to Dr. Charles Tungera. What if today we don't want to implement this greening and digitalization? What will we miss out as a country?
I think when I came in, I found Dr. Taran talking about the changing, and actually in Kiswahili, it's funny, tabia ya inchi. Why do they call it tabia ya inchi? I've always wondered. Behavior of a country. Does a country have a behavior? So we've seen a bit of climatic changes. I think everybody what they are looking at is how can they then be able to be part and parcel of the solution rather than part of the problem. This week you must have seen some EU unlocking some 27 billion Kenya shillings within the Sub-Saharan region, and Kenya is one of the beneficiaries of that because of the clean power that they're actually the world is trying to move to. And therefore, those are some of the advantages that you might actually miss out if you don't go into this greening space or even digitalization space efficiency. And be able to do more with the little that you have. All these countries, they are suffering from a budgetary allocation perspective. And with the small resources that these countries have, what they now require is, how can we do more with the small resources? Digitalization is part and parcel of the example. And the other side, just like I've seen, it is the aspect of greening.
Each 1 minute to give a concluding statement to the audience. Okay. One question, and then I think that will be the last question.
Okay, thank you. Greening is good for us. Now, an area that needs to be addressed by our experts, the bench, on the bench, is a question of security. You talk of cyber security, and you talk of our youth and other brilliant individuals coming on the platform. How do we ensure that we are safe? And especially, I think last month or so, you saw what happened to M-Pesa dealings, and there were delays. There were attempts, I think, to derail in one way or another. And also, there is a lot of taxes that are imposed by the various providers without the consumers knowing. There could be very little. 1 shilling, 2 shillings, 10 bob, etc., by the amount to millions, and wananchi don't know. And finally, the issue of our country, the type, the mood. Somebody somewhere, I'm sure most of you would know, said that we have to get rid of this animal called corruption. Why? Because in the future, our youth may grow to think that it is a career, that corruption is a career. And I'm surprised. Maybe, Dr. Ingera, you would tell us why the number one cause being sought now is the one of procurement. You know, there is a lot of loopholes in there. And our youth are, they are smart. So how are we going to safeguard, our nation and our wananchi from these clever cheats? Thank you.
Dr. Ringera, the question is yours. How do we safeguard from this, they call it a ghost of procurement?
He started, first of all, by IT security, Professor Kere, and it's a major concern for everybody, particularly the financial sector. I've been monitoring at the back end on who is accessing this new funding model platform. Then I've seen hits from Japan, Kazakhstan. I've seen it from Ukraine, Greece. I'm mentioning those countries deliberately because we know about them. And you wonder, what is a Ukrainian trying to do with a Kenyan funding model for universities and TVETs? Now, that's a question you ask yourself. And therefore, one of the capacities that we have completely built behind it is a very high Fortinet level of security around it. And most of the institutions now, as a mandatory requirement, you are supposed to have a security infrastructure that is actually able to secure the system. In the time that Safaricom came down because we heard it is an attack from Sudan, although I doubt whether they have the capacity even to attack themselves, the order was, if this guy who is trying to intrude on the Kenyan systems that does not wipe away my HELB loan, then he is not a hacker. Then we realized actually, and I think my board, I saw them commenting and saying that we are on the spotlight in terms of our data being wiped out. And therefore that told us that we need to increase our antenna in terms of security just like to the level of the banks. So we have a complete security infrastructure. We have a CISO in place, Security Information Officer, who also couples up as a DPA. One of the other things that I think institutions now need to think about very closely is the aspect of DPA, Data Protection Act, because as you're aware, the commissioner is now seated, and he has actually started charging people. Every day we are answering 1 or 2 questions from the Commissioner of Data Protection in regard to why did you breach on this data, why did you breach on that data. So the thing that will secure institutions is having a complete security system, number one, and number 2, also having people who are dedicated looking at data protection impact assessment so that you can then file it with the commissioner and also sign up DSAs, data sharing agreement between institutions who are going to share agreement. For example, if you look at the data that this school collect for their students, it's massive data. And some of the data actually is near what WorldCoin was collecting. Because now Tarno tells me here he is on biometric. That is almost WorldCoin collection. So who gave him permission to collect biometric for people? Then how does he use that information? When you come at the gate there, they are writing your ID number. They're almost asking your grandfather's name. How does that one help you? And now the commissioner is coming in strong. You must tell me what you want to do with this data. Every time we go for conferences, we are being told, e-list in your hotel, in-ear organizers. The one of the hotel is writing email, ID number, signature, telephone number, although me I have refused now to be giving them because I'm conscious about what my data can be used for. We must be intentional, conscious, and also apply people who can be able to secure our data in an architecture that is actually recognized and agreed both by the practitioners and maybe by the national government. And maybe this is my concluding remarks. On the appetite for these courses, Michael Joseph said it is a Kenyan unique culture. And we have actually seen it when in the application process of the new funding model. We have 20,000 Kenyans trying to access the system in 1 hour. So surely which system can be able to contain that? Even if we want to go through that door, all of us, the way we are, we can't fit that door. So I think we are unique. One of the areas you're unique is wanting to do more procurement than do artificial intelligence. Or even if it is artificial intelligence, you know, Dr. Taran talked about ChatGPT. I think if there is a way we can be able to log the questions that asking ChatGPT what to do, one question must be, how do I rob the government? How do I break into a bank? And you hope you can be able to get a resilient answer that can be able to make you through. One of the biggest questions I've been answering, and in KBC yesterday I left at 11:30, I don't know how many were watching by that time. One of the questions we are trying to answer on the new funding model is Kenyans are trying to understand how they can cheat the system to be classified as vulnerable. Nobody wants to answer the right question. So what is this with us of always wanting to take shortcut to be able to get maximum benefit from government? I don't know, maybe we require prayers, but I'm told prayers can only help on certain things. Economic problems require economic solutions, not prayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's have concluding remarks. We start with
Thank
Dr.
you. A very interesting story. Always Charles has a story. We have sat with him in boards and we laugh. One time when I just make a joke, one time when you were in Ghana with him, he was having problems. I think Babu Owino were giving him problems. You were in a conference out there and they had put posters saying wanted. You know that Wild West movie, which they say a wanted criminal, and they have put picture of Ringera na kuandika wanted because hajalipa pesa ya wanafunzi. So we were having a channel and I was asking him, are you the problem? He said, I'm not the problem. I told him, if you are not the problem, why don't you say where the problem is? And then, of course, you know where the problem was, and somehow he managed to do that. So he makes us laugh every day. Now, there are a few things I would just mention as I conclude. Someone asked, what will we miss out if we don't go digital? I want to tell you something. You will miss almost everything. And this is how it works. The new technologies that are coming require the latest kind of knowledge to use. 2, it means then you will be losing out on your ability to migrate to do jobs abroad because you are not qualified to be able to reach there. 2, most countries, if you look at India, the biggest money that comes to the Indian government is from remittances worldwide, comes from 2 countries. Number 1, India. India has got the highest remittances in the world on IT. The second one is Philippines. Can you imagine Philippines? A small country, medium, okay, it's 49th ranked, it's ranked around 49 in economy. But the second remittance is from Philippines. But what do you know about these 2 countries? They don't have high technology, but they have mass middle class technology. So you will lose out on work. The second thing is, how will you be online jobs if you don't know the latest technologies? So by refusing to move to the latest technologies, you lose most of the things that were supposed to be in place. Migration will also be missed. And then finally, there was a question of storage and cybersecurity. If you don't know how to protect yourself, how will you be able to move to the next level? So going to school on these aspects of cybersecurity, ChatGPT and all artificial intelligence is something so sacrosanct that we really must move to use it. Because you see, in short, it's like trying to say, I have property, but I don't have a soldier to protect me. You must train your people to be able to sustain the ability for us to protect ourselves and our systems. Nobody protects you more than us. The third one that makes you know that you lose is that we have very little control of some of the things we do. Google, it's not owned by Kenya. Facebook, it's not owned by Kenya. I mean, almost very many things that we use, very few things are owned by Kenya. Uber is not controlled in Kenya. So if you don't know these new technologies, how will you be able to survive in the new world order? The other one is the legal aspects, and I agree with Charles here, Ringera. We don't follow the law. Even currently, the cyber laws that we have, the cyber security, I think you will also mention it, they are not strong. The level of cyber security controls is very low. When I wrote about ChatGPT, the first country to ban it was Italy. About 5 months ago, it banned ChatGPT, the whole of it first, until they understand what it is. But in Kenya, Bitcoin guy comes here, he is in. Some guy called ChatGPT, we are just chatting. You know, we don't have our own way of protecting ourselves. If first world can ban something until they are sure. Look at TikTok. It has been banned in America. TikTok is almost being banned in Britain because they are looking at their safety. How safe are we before we introduce something? So for me, we have a very weak system of legal protection on the issues to do with ICT systems. We are not grounded. And if we are, it's very shallow. And even that shallow one, we don't follow. So that's where the problem is. There's a lot of corrupt things that happen here and there. Hackers are here, but nobody seems to bother so much about them. We don't follow them a lot. We are following the physical thief in Kiambu with a gun, but we are not following the cyber thief from Mulot, who every day takes off with millions of Kenya shillings from those places. So I think that is my take. And the last one, I want to challenge the institutions. How many, you call yourself the best university, we are the best TVET institution, but you do not even have an evolved curriculum on the latest problems you have. I expected Jomo Kenyatta College of Agriculture and Technology to be having very intense short courses on ICT, on cyber security. Intense, like the one we have in Westlands. Go to Immobilis in Westlands. It's doing magic. A small college that its certificates are actually recognized instantly worldwide. And they give you a course of 4 months, 5 months. Cyber security, data management, on all these things. We are giving a big degree that is knowledge-based, but people are not looking for knowledge anymore. People are not looking for degrees, they are looking for competence. So the universities should change the traditional model in which Professor Kere taught me. Hiyo ilipitwa na wakati. We need to actually change the curriculum to reflect, one, the needs, two, the speed at which those needs are evolving, and three, the latest technologies in those needs. If you can catch up in that kind of setup, it is easier. But finishing our all 4 years, and you say, mimi nilifanya MSc, ICT, but when you are told, please come and now deal with cyber security, you say, no, I'll have to go to some small course in Westlands. That is the level in which we need to deal with. Thank you.
Thank you. We welcome Gideon to give us his closing remarks.
Okay, thank you. Perhaps I'll just pick 1 or 2 questions that had been asked. I think one was by the DG on the linkage between industry and the TVET institutions. And that is where I'll speak about the dual TVET approach. So the dual TVET approach, which GIZ is supporting the government of Kenya to roll out, focuses on linking or twinning TVET institutions with industries. And that starts all the way from curriculum development to implementation of training. So students spend a minimum of 50% training in the industry, and the remaining time they spend in the TVET school. So that means they can train as high as 70% in the industry and the remaining time in the TVET school. So what this means is that they are exposed to the latest technologies and changes within the industries. They are ready for the market when it comes to employment. They understand the dynamics in the industry already. So therefore, dual training is one of the approaches that can help to really strengthen the collaboration between the TVET institutions and the industry and the world of work. And that will also then help with this challenge of the students live with incompetent skills. It's able to address that component. So you transition to the world of work with already skills that are required for the labor market. I think so far within the project will be rolling out dual TVET in 60 TVET institutions, public TVET institutions in Kenya until 2026. One of the key things we are looking at is greening and environmental aspect, which is very relevant to the topic we are discussing about. Obviously, because the major disruptions happening in the world now is the environmental change with regard to climate change and digitization. So there are two components that even as the TVET ecosystem is changing, it has to align with that. And therefore, we'll be looking at greening in terms of integrating green elements within existing curricula. So if you are training a curriculum in mechanical engineering, how do you integrate the green aspects on the various aspects of the training? So the integration model works better rather than training greening as an independent unit, but then is integrated into the technical trainings. I think also there was a question from Mr. Wanda regarding the simulations and where to get the content. In the pilot phase, and I'm glad the principal of KIST, Mr. Waititu, is here, we supported KIST to develop a hybrid learning concept. And how we did the component of the content is we combined an expert in that area and a digital expert guy. So there were two people working on the content. So the technical guy knows what is required in the technical field. The digital expert guy knows how do you automate. And in fact, what we did initially was to look at the entire curriculum of industrial mechatronics, and we picked out what can be hybridized, what can be digitized, what cannot be digitized. So that was the first process. So we extracted all elements of the curriculum that can be digitized. Then we went to the next step of twinning. So a technical expert and a digital expert. So the two are able to help to, they actually help to generate this hybrid learning concept for KISS for industrial mechatronics. And one of the outputs of that was an e-portfolio that was developed. So the e-portfolio, it means when students are doing practical aspects, they're able to record and upload it on that e-portfolio model platform. When they are doing something in the industry, they record and upload on that e-portfolio platform. So it means the trainer in the institution can be able to see the progress. The trainer in the industry can be able to give comments within the e-portfolio. And even we are even looking at, can it even transition to employment, where employers, as they are trying to seek for skilled persons, can they use that portfolio also to see what has this student been exposed to before? So that's a model we think that if it can be expanded and scaled up, it can really help on that component. Yeah, so I think with that, just finally, I think we have talked about all this topic. We need to develop, I think all aspects about greening and digitization is to come up with a sustainable workforce for the country. And a sustainable workforce, it means it's the one that is dynamic, is progressive, can adapt to the changes in the world of work. Because the labor market is changing. Dr. Tarun has already given some examples of the people who are now jobless because of changes in the world of work. So the green aspects or the green technologies, or we talk about green skills, they can help you to be able to transition and get adaptable skills so that when things change in the world of work, you can be able to shift very fast. And I think just finally, which is a general comment, Dr. Ngera is not here, but other ministry representatives are here. On the new financing model, I think it was just of a comment. We understand that the financing is supporting courses only up to 1 year, minimum of 1 year. But then we need to look at, we are talking about CBET, and CBET can be as short as 3 months. So what is the goodwill in terms of aligning policies towards CBET and financing? It means the student is going for 6 months, is he going to get financing? So those are some of the things I think as we are trying to look at, because we're talking about greening and digitization, will introduce short courses, which are CBET courses. So what is the government's policy also on financing supporting that component of CBET courses? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, Crispin Kente.
Mine will be very brief, and just to say thank you. And I'll just mention 2 items. I think one of them has been quite mentioned in terms of if we are digitalizing, then what do you actually do to make education much more relevant to those who are actually engaging? And that is definitely engaging industry. And how do you engage industry? Can we have those certifications? Advantages of the certifications would be, even cases of certifications, we're always teaching you what is relevant with what is there in the market. If you get a student who I'm teaching ICT today, the router that we're working on is a router that you will go and find in one of these ministries That means relevance. That means out there you can actually be absorbed very fast. But what can we be able to encourage? Can we encourage the TVETs to start working on equivalences? One person who has done networking and someone who has done a certification in data communication, they should be equivalent in a way. But for our education institution, they would more accept the course that is taken in class apart from the other. Lastly, the most important elephant in the room is security. I will just say one thing about security, and for all of us. Security only has 2 people or 3 people involved at any one moment. We have the sender, we have the receiver, and we have the medium, correct? And we always talk about 3 things when you're looking at security from the ICT perspective. And the 3 things would actually be, number 1 is confidentiality, number 2 is integrity, and the last thing is availability. What is attacked at any one time and what can you be able to control? Kama hujui nani unatumia, is your information very confidential? We should be very careful about it. So most of the time we actually say the animal or the elephant in the room in terms of communication is the human being. The human being or social engineering, that is where all the problem is coming in from. For other organizations and other institutions, we have gadgets that can be able to take care of that. We have technologies that are taking care of that. But for our case, it's all about being careful with what we are communicating. If you don't know the sender, then be very careful about what you're actually doing. And last but not least, let's all go digital. I think that's the only way to go, and no other way.
Let's appreciate our panelists with a round of applause. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the knowledge that you've impacted on us. I hope we'll go out there and be ambassadors of what we've been informed. And we'll take what we've been given today and learn with it in all places we go. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Let us appreciate the moderator and the panelist. At this time, before the panelists evacuate the podium, I'd like to get hostage of Daktari here and give him 5 minutes only to articulate to us what's the new funding model. And we are live on Homeboys TV, so you have a wider.
Thank you, and that came again as a surprise. But as we say, we are always ready to rock and roll. It's a very long presentation. That's why I don't even want to attempt to take it there. But in a nutshell, let me just indicate, because again, you're also parents. So when those letters came, everybody is shocked, isn't it? About medicine at KU, 720,000. At least you are not shocked about TVET because that has been negotiated to 67,000. I think 112. And therefore, the question is, where do we get this money and how do we pay this money? Now, for some of you who are adventurers, you must have seen what you call the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto on Education Charter. And if you look at that manifesto, from number 8 up to number 16, it was reforming financing and governance in higher education, both in TVET and also in university education. Why was that necessary? You must have seen the challenges that have been existing in universities in regard to cash flow management, because not enough resources have been going to the universities to be able to teach top-notch education. Again, when you look at the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto, it is talking about, exploring opportunities for our young ones to be able to get jobs outside the country. You must have heard His Excellency talk about jobs in Germany, jobs in Canada, and jobs in UAE. But the question is, the kind of graduates we are producing, are they going to be competitive to be able to compete with the Chinese for a job in Germany? So that's a question. Now, if universities are getting a quarter of the allocation they are supposed to be getting because of these government-sponsored students who government is unable to pay properly well, then universities and TVET colleges will produce a quarter-baked graduate, a half-baked graduate, because you are not paying for it. You pay for the size of what you need. Now, when you go back once to explore what then caused us to be where we are, you realize that there's a model that has been used in the universities called the DUC model. DUC is differentiated unit cost model. What does that mean? It means people who are doing sciences, like medicine, engineering, they are more expensive courses. And therefore, their cost, that is the differentiated, their cost is different from the ones who are doing social sciences or humanities, like law, BCom, education, all those social sciences. And therefore, the DUC model talked about differentiating, where the differentiated cost will be met as follows. 80% of that differentiated unit cost will be funded purely by scholarships, then called grants. And the public never knew about that. You went to the university, you didn't even know that there is an 80% grant that has been sent for you to school. You went to a TVET college, you did not know that some grant of 30,000 has been sent for you into the TVET college. And then the other 20% was supposed to be met by the household or Higher Education Loans Board, where the household is unable to meet, including, of course, the student upkeep. And therefore, you realize that for TVET, for TVET colleges, HELB would send 26,400 to the TVET college on behalf of that student, and will say this is for this student. And then government will also send 30,000 on behalf of that student. That was the structure of the funding, the 56,000. On top of the 40,000 we sent, part of the 40,000 we would send to that student as a loan, we took 13,600 and gave to the student directly to the pocket. That way then, if you earn 26,400 plus 13,600, that's a loan component for TVET of 50,000. When you came to the universities, school fees was supposed to be 16,000. So we give a student a loan of 50,000. We then check out the 16,000 and pay directly to the university. And the balance will then go to the student as part of upkeep. Now, that DUC went on from 2016-2017, when we were able to pay, instead of paying 80%, the government tried very much and was able to pay 66%. Last year, for the year that, financial year that ended in June 2023, we saw government DUC decline up to 48%. And therefore, you start understanding this problem of universities having cash crunch and also cash flow problems, where they were being also arrested by KRA because they cannot be able to meet the taxes that are supposed to be remitted. They can't pay pensions. And even now, universities like Egerton started paying 57% of the salaries for the last 3 years. So that's the genesis of the problem. When you look at the TVET colleges, they had been promised they will be able to get 30,000 capitation to run their programs per student that they have enrolled. We saw that decline to last year, they were able to get 10,700 instead of the 30,000. Why? Because of increased enrollment and lack of space. And therefore, as the fifth administration was coming into office, they were very clear in their mind, something and to give in, because we couldn't continue that way. We would have closed our colleges and our universities. So when you look at the new funding model, it is coming to cure that problem that was there. As I said, the old funding model was more on equality. Everybody who has gotten C+ and above, or everybody who has been admitted to TVET, 30,000. Everybody who has gotten to university, whether you like it or not, you must get a scholarship of, say, 48%. Whether you like it or not, they will give you. But for the loan component, we are on need-based. So on the old formula, you would say that is equality, because you have given everybody some money to go to school. The new model is trying to put in equality and equity. We are about to go for lunch now. I don't think, James, you'll eat what I will eat. Me, I will eat what I need, isn't it? And you will eat what you need. Smaller guys will eat even smaller, isn't it? So give somebody exactly what they need. That's why we are saying the new model is need-based. So when we apply what you call a scientific means testing instrument, it's actually on need basis. What you actually need is what we will give you because everybody does not need the same thing throughout their need basis. And therefore, we came up with this MTI, which is looking at 8 critical parameters and grouped into about 4. It looks at your family economic background, which is the poverty probability index. It also looks at affirmative action, who is coming from an orphan, who is a PWD, who is from marginalized area, and the gender for areas where you want girl child to start doing more of sciences. It also looks at socio-demographic and data, that is family size, marital status, and you know, we have just come to discover that there are some children actually who are parents. Both parents are dead, and the child is now arriving at the university and is taking care of the other siblings at the back. So what do you do with such a child? We also look at family education expenditure. In terms of your income, what is your family education expenditure? Once we simulate, and we are collecting all this data now from the loan applicant and the scholarship applicant who are applying currently, we will come up with 4 classifications of the society. But again, I do dare remind you, this is not new for the loan, but it is new for the scholarship. The loan was always having those categorizations, which is vulnerable, that is the bottom of the pyramid, and extremely needy. And then you have 2 other classes, which is needy and less needy. For the vulnerable and extremely needy, they will get 100% government funding. From our statistics and data, we know that even if you go to a church or a mortuary, and you take a sample of 30 Kenyans, and you ask them what is their socio-economic status, you will find that 14% are vulnerable, 15% are extremely needy, 54% are needy, and we have 17% who are less needy. Now, for mathematicians in the room, have I achieved a bell curve, a normal distribution curve? Yeah, every population is normally distributed, as long as your N is more than 30. Now, the students who are applying now currently, they are about 265,000. So we should be able, actually, as I left the desk this morning, I had about 105,000 applications, both in TVET and in universities. So I can actually now do the model of a normal curve. And those are the ratios of the population you'll get there. In case you are classified as vulnerable, you'll get 82% of government scholarship. You'll then get 18% as a loan. And we will also give you an upkeep loan of 60,000. In case you are classified as extremely needy, you'll get a loan of 70%. You'll get a scholarship of 70%, a loan of 30%, and your household will pay nothing, but you'll also get an upkeep loan of 55,000 per annum. In case you are classified as needy, you'll get a scholarship of 53% and a loan of 40%, and your father and mother or family will pay 7%. We'll look at the numbers shortly so that then it can become clear. If you are less needy, you'll get a scholarship of 38%, a loan of 55%, and your household will pay 7%. And we'll also top it up with a loan, an upkeep loan of 45,000, which is now our lowest loan that we can be able to give. So let's take a typical example. How many have seen the letter from KU for somebody to do medicine? So that we can work out some numbers. That will help us. Anybody? Okay. Let's see. Who has received a letter? Whether students, whether parents. Who has received a letter of admission from one of the colleges or universities? Yeah. Sisi zote hapa hakuna mtoto anaenda from university or TVET. Okay, take for example, a child who has been taken to KU to do medicine and is a vulnerable child. Remember, vulnerable child, we said what? Full school fees must be paid. The school fees or the tuition fees per annum for KU to do medicine is 720,000. Please write that number somewhere so that then you can help me also explain to the other people how this works. Remember, this child is vulnerable. We said, because government is a bulk purchaser, the universities have given government-sponsored students a discount of 15%, which means from 720, you are supposed to pay 85%, right? What is 85% of 612, of 720? Quick numbers. 612. So that fees must be paid. There is nothing like paying 58% or 48% or whatever percentage of it. So if government has given you a scholarship of 82%, what is 82% of 612? 541,840? Good. Now, we will also send a tuition loan to KU of 18%. What is 18% of 612? 110, 160, right? If you earn 110, 160 plus 541,840, what does that come to? Does it come to 612? Yeah? Is the school fees of KU fully paid? Has the parent paid anything? That's government money. On top of that, we'll give this child an upkeep loan of 60,000. So the entire loan for this child is 110 plus 60,000, which is 170. And that will run for 6 years. Now, take the other side. A child who is quite less needy is on the other side. The less needed, remember, the family must pay 7% and government will pay 93%. Once again, the school fees, net discounted school fees is 612,000. This child will get a government scholarship of 38%. What is 38% of 612? 232,580? Very good. Then we'll give a loan of 55%. What is 55% of 232,580? Did you get 336,600? If you earn 336,600 and 232,580, what? And then subtract that from 612. What is the balance for the 7%? Who is shouting the first number? I think the youngsters have gotten it. What's the number? Did you get the number? I can help you there. The balance of 7% is 42,840. Can I get collaborations? Is that the number? That is what the family is supposed to pay. This is a less needy family. Now, how many semesters are there in a year? 2. So divide by 2. 42,840 divided by 2. 21,420. Huyu mtoto alikuwa extra county school. What is the school fees of extra county school? 53. Now, and that is secondary school. Now we are telling him at the university, pay 21,000. Has school fees gone up or it has gone down? Now, let me give you another deal sweetener. This child less needy, we will also give him a loan of 45,000 as upkeep loan. Na huyu ni mtoto wa Sonko, huyu ni mtoto wa Kere. Anakujanga na gari shule. Sasa serikali imemnunulia hata mafuta ya kuendesha hiyo gari kukuja nayo shule. In case Professor Kere is very mean to his children, imagine the 45,000 we have given him. It is more than what he is required to pay us, 42,840 to come from the household. And now KU is happy because they have received full school fees. So this thing of financial cash flow problems, you don't expect that from the universities. Remember, as we stand today, universities have a pending bill of 61 billion. Taxes are not paid, pensions are not paid, SACCOs are not paid, medicals are not paid, All manner of, pending bills, including bank loans. They are not paying for various staff who have actually taken the loan. So it is important for us to, it was important for us to design a rescue package, which not necessarily giving directly to the university. If I had time, I will do the same for TVET colleges, so that you can see actually, even for less needy, a TVET family, you are supposed to pay 4,479 per, is it called a trimester? Because there are 3 in a trimester. That is what a less needy family is supposed to pay for TVET colleges. Is this a deal breaker or a deal maker for everybody? So please, this is a gospel we would want you to go out there and preach. Currently, the applications are going on.